It's time to start telling our own stories. I'm Steve Kellums, and welcome to Blue Canary. I had just finished a day of teaching. Inside the Hamilton County Jail, you couldn't see what was going on outside, but I'd kept an eye on the weather app on my phone. Severe thunderstorms were moving across the state, and I didn't want my students to get caught up in the bad weather, so I finished class about 15 minutes early. I packed up and headed towards my hotel. Home was a little over 2 hours away, so staying in a hotel was the only real option, nothing I wasn't very familiar with. The skies were very dark, and you could tell that the storm was going to be a rough one. When I got back to my hotel, I checked the weather radar again. The storm was just hitting my home in southern Indiana, and my 19-year-old daughter was there by herself. My wife was in California for a conference, and my daughter was home for college for the summer. I decided to wait a few minutes and give her a call after the storm had passed to check on her. And that's when my phone rang. My daughter was extremely upset. Her voice was racing, and I could tell something bad had just happened. "Dad, a tree just hit the house. Are you okay?" That was all I cared about. "Yes, I'm okay, but the big tree out front just fell on the house." Take a deep breath. "Are you sure you're okay?" I heard her take that deep breath, and when she responded next, she had calmed down. "I'm fine, but there's a hole in the roof and water is pouring into the living room. It's bad." "Okay, I'm headed that way, but it's going to take me over 2 hours to get there. Do what you can, and I'll make a few calls. As long as you're okay and safe, we can fix everything else." I was very calm on the phone. Years of working in our profession, you learn when you need to be calm, and usually while I might make a big deal or fuss about unimportant things, the moment it gets real is when I get calm. I started hitting up some of my friends as I made my way to my truck. I first called Drew, a good family friend who lived nearby and had to drive past my house on his way home. "Can you check on Sabrina?" "I'm on it. I'll let you know." To be honest, after that very first call, I can't remember who I called and in what order. When I finally made it home through the debris of the huge storm that left more than just my home in ruin, it was like getting gut punched. It was worse than I thought. The 100-foot tree that was about 4 feet in diameter at the base had crashed into my house, exploding every roof rafter, breaking the main ridge beam, and putting holes and shattering drywall throughout the house. My daughter met me in the driveway. She was wet, dirty, and tired. For the last 2 hours, she had worked to get buckets under the rainwater, move furniture, and try and save what she could. My neighbors had come over and helped by bringing tarps, plastic, and buckets as well. They'd also checked on my daughter, making sure she was okay. My friend Drew was still there. His construction background was very helpful, but what he was telling me didn't seem promising. But my daughter was okay. Everything else could be fixed. While I was standing there looking at the destruction, Drew told me he had called Jamie, and Jamie was on his way. Jamie had his own construction business and was a master carpenter who had remodeled my house a few years earlier. I first met Jamie on the traffic stop. He was an alcoholic and habitual traffic violator I had arrested. He had gotten sober a little bit after that, and he'd gotten his life back together. He remembered me immediately when we met during the estimates for the remodel and spoke up, saying I'd been fair and even polite to him when there was no reason to be, and he never forgot that. We talked a lot during the remodel, and while I know I didn't have anything to do with him changing his life, he always thanked me for it. Jamie dropped everything and brought his crew over that night to get me as watertight as you can with a 40-ton tree on your house. By now, my phone was blowing up with people asking if I needed anything. I always say I don't, but this was overwhelming. One of my old co-workers who had just retired and his wife pulled up in front of the house. "We're here. What do you need us to do?" I didn't know. Couldn't fathom where to start. So they just jumped in. A few hours later, I realized I had to go back to work. I had just completed the first day of a 1.5-day class. I had students who'd paid money for the class. Everything was scheduled. I had responsibilities. I couldn't just call it off because something terrible had happened. I understand how crazy that sounds, but I'd given my word, and as long as my family was taken care of, I had to honor that commitment. My daughter had taken our dog with her to one of our family friends' homes. They were kind enough to open their home to us for anything. She was safe and comfortable and could get a good night's sleep without having to worry about the house. My wife was in California at a conference, and although she was upset that she couldn't be at home, there was nothing she could do, and she was also safe there. Everything was mostly taken care of, save the house with all the damage. My friends told me to go back to my class, that they'd make sure everything was taken care of. I headed back north to my hotel and my next day's class. I was exhausted. The level of damage to my home was really starting to set in. Realizing how close my daughter came to getting seriously injured shook me, and then I thought of all my friends who'd showed up to help. Drew, who stopped at my house and checked on my daughter before going to his own home. John and Laura, who gave my daughter and my dog a place to stay. Jamie, who dropped everything at his own business to rush over and help. Jason and Carrie and Joe, who spent almost the entire night at my house moving furniture, pulling down ceilings and covering walls, floors, and furniture with plastic to protect everything that wasn't already destroyed. I had to pull over for a few minutes because I lost it. While money might help you get things fixed in the long run, it will never be there for you when you need it the most. Reputation doesn't cut trees off your house. Long hours at work won't ensure that your daughter has a place to sleep in an emergency. Only friends do that. Friends are everything. It took me months to get things back together, and even as I record this, looking at Thanksgiving just around the corner, I still have a few items to finish up. Rebuilding wasn't easy, but one thing really kept me going. I am blessed with friends. I am blessed to have neighbors that rushed to my home to make sure that we were safe. I am blessed that I have people who will be there for me and my family in the darkest moments. I am blessed that I have friends who will reach out and provide moral and actual support when needed. I am blessed that I have met some amazing people over my career and that they will take the time to chat with me on this podcast. And I am blessed that people like you take the time to listen. This is a heartfelt thank you to all of my friends out there for everything that they have done and will continue to do. I can never truly repay you with anything but my own friendship. I love all of you very much. I hope you've enjoyed Season 5 of Blue Canary. As usual, we are going to take a couple of months off and start planning for next year. If you've enjoyed Blue Canary, please do me a favor and rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform. We're also now on YouTube, so make sure you like and subscribe, not just on your podcast app, but also on YouTube so that we can continue to help you tell your stories. And finally, like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. We will be back in the spring with Season 6 of Blue Canary. What are we going to focus on for next season? Well, you'll just have to subscribe to find out. And remember, take a few minutes to make friends. They're everything. And that's the story we have to tell. Thank you for joining. As always, I'm curious what questions you're getting asked. What isn't the news covering? What story needs to be told? Connect with me at bluecanarypodcast@gmail.com.